The heavy air in Akolu, South Carolina carried the blood of the innocent black boy George Stinney. It was 1944, deep in the South America, where black and white people lived separated by laws, fear, and silence. A railroad track cut through the small mill town like a line between two worlds. On one side lived white families. On the other side lived black families, including the Stinneys. Among them was a quiet 14-year-old boy named George Stinney Jr. George was small for his age, skinny, soft-spoken, and known for helping his family. His father worked hard at the lumber mill, while George attended the segregated black school and spent his days doing chores, watching cows, and playing with his younger siblings. Like many black children growing up in the Jim Crow South, George understood early that he had to be careful around white people. One wrong accusation could destroy a life. On the morning of March 23, 1944, two white girls, 11-year-old Betty June Binnicker and 8-year-old Mary Emma Thames, rode their bicycles through town searching for wildflowers called maypops. Along the way, they passed near the black neighborhood and stopped to ask George and his sister if they knew where flowers could be found. George answered briefly. It was a simple conversation. Nothing more. No one knew it would become the last peaceful moment of his life. When the girls did not return home that evening, panic spread across Akolu. White families searched the woods with flashlights while whispers moved through the town like smoke. By the next morning, the girls were found dead in a ditch, their small bodies brutally beaten. Shock quickly turned into anger. And in a segregated southern town, anger needed a target. Someone remembered that George had spoken to the girls. That was enough. The police came for him immediately. George was taken from his home alone. No lawyer stood beside him. No parent protected him inside the interrogation room. He was only a frightened child surrounded by white officers demanding answers. Hours later, police announced that George had confessed. But there was no signed statement. No recording. No witnesses to prove what was said behind those closed doors. Still, the town believed the case was solved. Fear swept through the black community. George's family knew what could happen in the South when a black boy was accused of harming white people. Rumors of lynching spread quickly. To survive, the Stinney family fled Akolu, leaving George behind in jail. He would never see his parents freely again. Just 1 month later, George was brought into a courtroom packed with white spectators. The courtroom itself felt decided before the trial even began. The jury was entirely white. His court-appointed lawyer barely defended him. No strong witnesses were called. No evidence was seriously challenged. George sat quietly, too young to fully understand the machine moving against him. The trial lasted only a few hours. The jury needed barely 10 minutes to decide his fate. Guilty. The sentence was death. At only 14 years old, George Stinney Jr. became the youngest person in modern American history sentenced to die in the electric chair. In the weeks before his execution, George waited alone inside a prison cell built for adults. While other boys his age played baseball, went to school, or dreamed about the future, George counted the days until the state would kill him. On June 16, 1944, guards led the terrified teenager into the execution chamber in Columbia, South Carolina. The electric chair was designed for grown men. George was so small that they reportedly struggled to secure him properly. A Bible rested in his trembling hands. Witnesses said he looked frightened but calm. Some believed he still hoped someone would stop the execution at the last moment. No one did. When the switch was pulled, electricity surged through the body of a child. And just like that, George Stinney Jr. was gone. For decades, the case haunted America's conscience. Many people believed the boy had never received justice. Lawyers, historians, and civil rights activists reopened the story years later, searching through old records and forgotten memories. They found missing evidence, weak testimony, and signs of deep racial prejudice. 70 years after George's death, a South Carolina judge finally admitted what many had long believed. The trial had been unfair. The conviction was overturned. But by then, the frightened 14-year-old boy from Akolu had been dead for generations. George Stinney Jr.'s story became more than a courtroom tragedy. It became a symbol of how fear, racism, and injustice could steal the life of an innocent child. His name still echoes through American history as a painful reminder of a time when the law often protected some people while destroying others. And somewhere in the memory of that small southern town, the image remains. A little boy, alone in a courtroom, condemned before he ever truly had a chance to be heard.